There comes a time in a woman's life when silence says more than 1,000 words. Not because she has nothing to say, but because she finally understands what no longer needs to be explained. Have you noticed? When a woman stops explaining, stops chasing, stops proving, the dynamic of every relationship begins to shift. What was once effort becomes ease. What felt urgent begins to lose its grip. Why? Because silence is not withdrawal. It is return. A return to self. A return to stillness. A return to the center from where all authentic strength rises. Most people fear silence because they equate it with absence. But in truth, silence is presence without noise. It is the birthplace of wisdom, emotional regulation, and unshakable self-worth. There is a profound difference between a woman who is quiet because she is silenced by fear and a woman who is silent because she has reclaimed her inner ground. One is shrinking, the other is expanding. One is suppressing her truth, the other is sitting with it. In a world that constantly demands our attention and rewards rapid reaction, the woman who learns to withdraw, not out of avoidance, but out of alignment, starts to change the entire rhythm of her life. This type of silence is not about passivity. It is not the silence of resignation or defeat. It is the silence of inner listening. It is the space between reaction and response where wisdom quietly lives. When a woman begins to practice this kind of silence, especially in the middle of emotional chaos or relational tension, something extraordinary starts to happen. She begins to hear the parts of herself that were previously drowned out by the noise of the world. It is in this silence that clarity is born. A woman who takes the time to silence her environment, turning down the volume of other people's opinions, stepping back from emotional drama, letting go of the compulsion to always be understood, finds herself entering a state of profound presence. She is no longer on the battlefield of proving, pleasing, or performing. She is simply present with what is, and in that space, she meets herself again. There is a story often told in Eastern traditions about a woman who goes to a monk and says, "I cannot hear the voice of truth. I meditate, I pray, I read the teachings, but I still feel confused." The monk simply walks with her to a lake. He picks up a stick and stirs the water until it becomes muddy. Then he says, "This is your mind, always moving, always reacting. Truth cannot be seen in turbulence." Then he stops, places the stick down, and they wait. Slowly, the mud settles. The water becomes clear. The monk points, "Now you can see the bottom." The lesson is simple but profound. The truth you are looking for reveals itself in stillness. Modern neuroscience confirms this ancient truth. When we quiet the external stimulation and allow ourselves to enter states of reflection, especially in silence, the brain's default mode network becomes active. This network is responsible for introspection, self-awareness, and emotional integration. It's in these moments that past experiences, unprocessed feelings, and intuitive knowing begin to rise gently to the surface, offering us insight we often miss when we are too busy reacting or explaining ourselves. In relationships, this inner silence becomes an invaluable gift because emotional pain and misunderstanding often arise not from the event itself, but from the way we react to it. A harsh word, a broken promise, a sudden silence from someone we care about. These things can hurt deeply, but it is our immediate, unexamined reactions that usually escalate the wound. When a woman learns to pause, to not immediately respond, not rush to explain, not retaliate, she introduces a gap, and in that gap, she regains her power. Think about it. How many times have you said something in the heat of the moment that you later regretted? How often have you sent a message, made a phone call, or lashed out emotionally only to realize later that what you truly wanted was peace, not control? Emotional reactivity is a form of emotional slavery. It means your inner world is being ruled by outer circumstances. But when a woman sits in silence and listens, not to the noise outside, but the voice within, she begins to respond rather than react. This is the beginning of emotional freedom. The same applies to emotional conversations in relationships. Often, when things go wrong between two people, there's a temptation to fix it quickly. We need to talk. Why did you do that? I deserve an explanation. And while communication is essential, timing is everything. Speaking before you are emotionally regulated often leads to more confusion. But when a woman chooses to be still first, to regulate her breathing, observe her own feelings without judgment, allow her nervous system to return to baseline, what she eventually says comes from grounded clarity rather than emotional instability. There was a woman in her late 50s who had spent most of her life bending over backwards to maintain peace in her relationships. She believed that if she just kept everyone happy, she would finally feel loved. But over the years, she noticed a deep exhaustion growing inside her. She was always explaining herself, always apologizing for taking space, always communicating in the name of transparency. But deep down, she felt unseen and unheard. One day, after a particularly difficult conversation with her partner, where she again felt the need to defend her boundaries, she decided to do something different. She simply stopped explaining. She sat in silence and let her boundaries speak for themselves. No arguments, no essays, no pleading. Just quiet alignment. Something shifted. Not only did she feel a deep peace inside herself, but the dynamics around her began to change. Her partner, confused at first, started to ask deeper questions rather than reacting defensively. Her children began to respect her time more. Friends who were emotionally draining started falling away. She hadn't said anything new. She had simply returned to herself. And in doing so, she changed the energy she carried into every room she entered. This is not magic. It's alignment. Silence, when chosen with awareness, recalibrates your energy field. It changes how others experience your presence. It introduces the quality of gravitas, the sense that you are rooted in something deeper than opinions or outcomes. And this rootedness is felt by others, even if they cannot name it. Let us now reflect on the nature of attention. In both Eastern philosophy and modern neuroscience, it is understood that attention is one of the most powerful currencies we possess. Whatever we give our attention to grows. Attention is like a spotlight. It energizes what it touches. And the question becomes, where is your attention going? When a woman is caught in the loops of, what is he doing? Why hasn't he responded? What does this silence mean? Her attention is trapped outside herself. This external focus may seem innocent at first, but over time it drains her life force. Her emotional energy is no longer hers. It becomes tethered to someone else's behavior. And in this constant external seeking, she loses her internal clarity. Energy goes where attention flows. If your attention is constantly pulled outward, into arguments, into seeking validation, into tracking someone else's actions, you begin to feel anxious, disconnected, and emotionally exhausted. Your sense of power diminishes, not because it has disappeared, but because it's been given away. In contrast, when a woman withdraws her attention from the chaos and returns it inward, something miraculous happens. She starts to feel her own presence again. She remembers her breath. She notices the tension in her shoulders. She realizes the stories she's been repeating in her mind. And as her awareness deepens, her energy begins to gather, like water returning to its source. This redirection of attention is not about ignoring others. It's about not abandoning yourself. It's about choosing to stay with your inner experience, especially when emotions rise, to notice, I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling dismissed. I'm feeling uncertain, without immediately needing someone else to fix it. This level of self-observation builds emotional maturity, and in relationships, it changes everything. Psychologists have found that the ability to observe one's emotional state without being consumed by it is a key predictor of emotional intelligence. It's called meta-awareness, the awareness of awareness itself. When a woman develops this skill,